Today we're covering 7th grade, Chapter 6, Lesson 5, Writing Equations. And if you have a textbook at home, it's page 481. So step 1 to writing an equation is to determine the rate of change. We also call that the slope. Step 2 is determine the y-intercept. And remember, y-intercept is when x is 0. Or if you're looking at a graph, it's where the line crosses the y-axis. And then once you have the slope and the y-intercept, then you plug it into the formula, y equals mx plus b. So let's take a couple of examples. Write the equation of the line that is represented by each table or graph. So we're going to start with the table. To find the slope, we need to pick 2 intervals. And it could be any 2 that you want. I'm going to be brave today, and I'm going to pick the big numbers. So the slope is always the change of y over the change of x. So the change of y over the change of x. My y's go on top. So 61 minus 45. And the x that went with 61 is 12. And the x that went with 45 is 8. Then we work that out. 61 minus 45 is 16. And 12 minus 8 is 4. And then we simplify. You can either simplify or 16 divided by 4, you can go divide it out because it's improper. And that equals 4. So the slope is 4. The y-intercept is usually pretty easy to find because remember it's where x is 0. Well, there's x as 0, y would be 13. Then I plug it into that equation. Y equals, and the slope was 4 times x plus the y-intercept is 13. Now let's look at how we could do that from a graph. First, we need to pick 2 points so we can find the slope. So pick an even point. It doesn't matter which ones you pick, but pick something that's even. Don't pick something that's, a fraction, because that will be more challenging for you to calculate. So I'm going to pick. So this point up here on the top is -2, 1. And this one down here on the bottom is 1, -5. Slope is change of y over change of x. So the y's go on top. So 1 minus -5. And the x that went with 1 is -2. And the x that went with -5 is 1. Then we have to remember those integer rules. Keep, change, change. And same thing on bottom. Keep, change, change. Now I have 1 plus 5, which is 6. And -2 plus -1 makes -3. And again, it's improper, so we can just divide. 6 divided by -3 makes -2. So the slope is -2. There is another way to find the slope. If you have a graph, make a right triangle. So like from that point to that point. And it doesn't matter. Again, you can pick any 2 points. Remember that slope is also rise over run. So I'm going to count the little blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It rows 6. And then the run, 1, 2, 3. And 6 divided by 3 makes 2. Now I know it's negative because the line is pointed down. So it's -2. If the line was pointed up, that would be positive. So that's just another way to find the slope. The y-intercept, again, is very easy to find. Look for where it crosses the y-axis. That would be right there at -3. And then we're going to plug it into the equation. Y equals, first we put the slope, -2, times x plus b, which is this y-intercept. Okay, now you can write it as that, or you can write it as y equals -2x minus 3, because plus a -3 is the same as just -3. Let's look at a couple more examples. Since you're going to be asked to identify this from a table, let's do another example where you're identifying the information from a table. Okay, the question says, Fernando, graph the line shown in the table below. What is the slope and the y-intercept of this line? Write an equation for Fernando's table. Okay, so to find the y-intercept, that's the easy one. Look for where x is 0. And what's y? -3. Slope, you've got to pick 2 intervals. I'm going to pick these 2 on the end. And remember, it's change of y and change of x. So what's the y changing by? I'm going to do 7 minus -3. And the x that went with 7 is 2 minus the x that goes with -3 is 0. And then we have to remember those rules for integers. Keep, change, change. And 7 plus 3 makes 10. And 2 minus 0 would be just 2. 10 divided by 2 makes 5, so the slope is 5. Then we're going to put it into an equation. And when you type these equations, please don't put any spaces. So it'll be y equals, first we put the slope, so that's 5, times x plus the y-intercept, which is -3. Okay, now let's look at a graph. I'm going to write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line. And there's not any numbers, but you can count. So the y-intercept is the easy one. It's where the line crosses the y-axis, so that looks like it's at 2. The slope is where we either need to draw our right triangle or find 2 points to subtract. I'm going to find 2 points to subtract. So let's go with this one and this one. So that one is 0, 2, and this one is 2, 2. So the y's are 2 minus, -2. That's a -2. And the x that went with the +2 is 0, minus the x that goes with the -2 is 2. Remember the rules for integers. Keep, change, opposite. So 2 plus 2 makes 4, and 0 minus 2 makes -2. And 4 divided by -2 would make negative 2. So the slope is negative 2. I do want to show you again that you can just count. Make a right triangle and count. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where I got the top number. 1, 2. That's where I got the bottom number. And it's negative because the line is going down. Okay, then we want to plug in that information into our equation. Y equals, and the slope goes first, negative 2 times x plus the y-intercept, which is 2.